Hi everybody, welcome to the Toronto Real Estate Show with Jenelle and Leslie. I'm Jenelle Cameron.
Hi there, I'm Leslie Pearson.
And today we are going to talk about real estate agent mistakes that may be causing you to lose out on either your sale or buy. Hey everybody, welcome back. Hope you had a great week and thanks for tuning in. This is the third time we've recorded this.
Having some technical issues today.
Hopefully
this works.
We were just on such a good roll on take number 2 as well. So hopefully we'll continue that. But once again, I feel like I'm repeating myself, but of course it's only to you. Just want to remind all of you to please rate our podcast, subscribe, leave feedback. We got all kinds of great feedback this week. It was so nice to hear from people. We got questions, we got feedback. I like random people like reaching out. So it was really nice because usually it's as a result of, I don't know. Yeah, we do get feedback for sure, but this week there was all kinds of it. So I get the sense that there's more interest, right, in the market all of a sudden. Like the way people are not just asking questions, but like just some stuff that we've experienced, like what you were just saying.
Yeah, I could add to the conversation if I remember what I was just saying.
Oh, yes.
We were talking before we started this podcast
for the third time
about what we've been doing lately, and I mentioned to Jenelle that I had a client, all geared up to submit an offer yesterday on a great property that has been listed for sale for off and on, and mostly on for sale for an entire year, 1 year, have significantly reduced the price from their starting point a year ago. But the last few times that they've terminated and then come out new, fresh, it's all been at the same price. So it's not that there's been a recent price reduction at all. It's on the market for a year. Cousin was all set up yesterday to do an offer, and before it isn't even a case of the agent drumming up other offers. Before we even told him we were going to be submitting an offer, he contacted me first to say they had another offer on the very same day, and then an hour later to say they had a second offer.
After not having any for a year.
And and this is, sometimes when you indicate an interest in the property, as part of the listing agent's job, they try and get their seller as many offers as they can. But this wasn't even that, because we hadn't even told them. It's a year on the market, and 3 interested parties came out of the woodwork the same week, the same day.
So that says it all.
So that says a lot.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that in a couple of different markets. Like that's a great street, good house.
Yeah.
Which makes sense, and I've seen it with.
But why did it sit for?
I don't know.
Even a year ago was a decent market.
But I guess right now this is what I'm hoping for. Like people know that we're probably going to have another interest rate reduction in a couple of weeks on the 23rd, and I think people are just starting to go. You know what? I think we got to make this move. We got to do it. That's what I'm thinking. Like I don't really know. Like,
even the listing agent on this particular property
was shocked.
When I had met him when I went to see the property, he was there, and I had a general conversation with him at the time about the listing, how it had gone over the year, and as part of that conversation, I asked if he thought there was any wiggle room on the price. It had come down significantly, but it's been on the market a year. Is there any wiggle room? And he said exactly that back to me. He said, well, it's been on the market for a year, so I'd say there's wiggle room. But then yesterday, when he called to follow up with me and tell me there was an offer coming from someone else, he said, your wiggle room is gone now.
Yeah, the wiggle room left.
No more wiggle room. So that's a shame for my client, but
it makes me feel happy for that seller, but also potential sellers, because we've got some stuff hanging around. Like it's just hard to move. I did notice on some listings we have, like I'm getting more interest. And I had I showed a bunch of condos this week, and I think 2 of them ended up with offers this week. Now, they weren't downtown condos, so that probably helps. But
Mhm.
so things are,
Maybe. Yeah.
I don't know.
We'll
I don't
see
know
what
to
the
say.
September numbers show.
Yeah.
Because I haven't had as much experience or as much reason for that optimism that you have.
Yeah, I get waves of it.
Yeah.
It's a strange time, but we'll get to the topic at hand because it's kind of relevant to what we're saying. And that is quite simply, we have too many real estate agents in the market as part of the Toronto Real Estate Board. There are almost quadruple the number of when we started. I think there were 20,000. I think we're over 70,000 realtors now. The interesting thing is most of those people don't do any business at all. Like a very small percentage of those 70,000 realtors actually do business.
Mm-hmm.
Selling, and by that I mean selling more than like 2 houses a year. So I think what has transpired from that is a whole bunch of real estate agents who are desperate to make a sale, who aren't getting appropriate training, who don't really know what they're doing out there, and as a result of that, they're making critical mistakes for their buyers and their sellers, and that has a huge impact, obviously, on the market in general.
Yeah. So I think that the risk of this is a greater incidence of, first of all, ignorance, but mistakes.
Yeah.
And that's what we wanted to talk about today. I also think, I think there was a huge influx over COVID for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But I also, I talk to a lot of people who just think it's easy to get their license even if they don't do any business and maybe just down the road sell their own house.
It costs a fortune to have a just so people know, like I think this is important to point out, you have to pay Toronto real estate dues every year, you pay provincial and national dues. We are now obligated to pay for some ridiculous wellness program, which is basically benefits that we may want or don't want, but you are forced to pay.
Have you used any yet?
Well, yeah, because
No,
I canceled my old physio, but I ran out.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to pay for that, and it ain't cheap.
No.
So we have to pay for that. That the TREP fees and the wellness program alone, I think, are $2,000 now.
Mm-hmm.
You have to pay. So that's just one little portion. You have to pay for ongoing maintenance of your RICO license. You have to pay your broker to hold your license.
Insurance.
You have to pay for insurance. That's like $800 a year or something. You have to pay for every time you do a deal, you give a portion. If you are doing deals, you give a portion to your brokerage. We
don't mean to be whining.
No, we're not whining.
We know what it is. We're just laying this out because most people out there just think about the great money that real estate agents make and don't know anything about the cost to be an agent. We're not complaining about it at all.
No.
We went into it fully knowing this.
But we know it. That's our point.
But I think these new agents, so all this influx of new real estate agents, they're also paying those things. The only thing they might not be paying is some amounts to their brokerages for their deals because they're not doing any.
Yeah.
But they're paying everything else. And even I was getting my hair trimmed the other day, and the woman told me that her niece got her license and she can't afford to keep it.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm laughing just because, again, this is all part of the whole dilemma that the system has pushed all these people through who are not experienced. They don't know what they're getting into. They're not getting appropriate training.
And I think they're maybe doing it for the wrong reason.
They're doing it for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
The brokerages that they're joining are cheap.
Mm-hmm.
The cheapest that they can find, so they're not providing anything. So now we have this whole problem with people who are not doing their job.
Hence our topic choice today, and what some examples of the kinds of things we're seeing that might be seeing you, the general public, might be doing you a disservice.
Yeah.
In our opinion.
Yeah.
So what kinds of things are we talking about?
Okay, well, the first thing I thought was, this came from a question we had this week from someone who, in a nutshell, basically had said that he had joined a team The team had trained him in a specific way to do various things in certain steps, but he said he eventually realized when he started working, the practicality of what they were training him or teaching him didn't match
the theory, didn't
the
match
reality.
the practice. Yeah.
Yes, and so one of those examples was something I had referenced last week, where I talked about the fact that we had 9 offers on a listing, and one of the agents came in with a condition on a home inspection, even though I had provided a pre-list home inspection for the property. So this agent said to me, I don't understand what the harm is in doing that. And I explained to him, as I will explain briefly here, that, the whole concept of winning for your client in multiple offers has to be balanced with doing the right thing for your buyer.
Right.
But he had been taught that if an agent does a pre-list home inspection, then it's bias. And although he didn't come out and say that, but that's sort of what he'd been told, that it's bias, and that we needed to, as a buying agent, he should do his own for his client.
Right.
And didn't think it was good enough to have that, and didn't see the harm.
Right.
So, I'm just here to tell everybody, because I think this is important, that you have to remember a home inspector, it's a legal responsibility. That inspector needs to report on the things he sees in the property. Yes, they make mistakes, but no, would they ever do anything in order to skew a home inspection report in order to work with the seller. It doesn't work that way. Okay, sure, maybe it's happened in the history of time, but by and large, these inspectors work very hard. They pay a lot of insurance. They follow a very strict set of rules, just like we all do. And, they're reporting on what they see. So if a pre-list home inspection is done for the property, there should be no concern that the inspector has not provided a good report.
Yeah, no, and theory is lovely, but practice is a whole other story. Do you want to help your clients successfully buy a property? And if you follow the training that this agent has gotten, they will never be successful, because in a situation like that, where there's 9 offers on the property, why would a seller ever choose a buyer who included a condition if other ones did not?
Mm-hmm.
Like, never. Now, I will say, on the note of home inspectors, I agree wholeheartedly with everything you just said, but when I work with buyers and there's been pre-listing home inspections, I look to who did the home inspection.
Yes.
Because my confidence level goes up if it's someone known in that neighborhood, that type of house, that kind of thing. Then I can say to my buyer, there's a pre-listing home inspection. He's been hired by the sellers. It's going to be true and fair, and I know this guy.
Yeah.
He has credibility, and we can rest assured that, and have confidence in the report he's provided. Yeah. If it's someone, from Sudbury who essentially phoned it in, I'm a little bit queasy about it. But still, you have to weigh. Do you really want the house, right, or don't you?
Right. And I would not take that kind of queasy approach. I would trust that the person knows what they're doing. And if I was unsure about it, I would call. Because these inspectors, by the way, they provide information, like their number, and a lot of them will say, like, I'll walk you through it for another 4 hours.
I encourage my buyers to do that.
Yeah, and I would just call and say, like, what did you mean by this? What did you mean by that? I mean, a home inspection, you have to remember, like, it's pretty basic stuff, right? Like, I feel like I could almost do one myself after attending so many.
Because they can only comment on what they can see.
Yeah, they don't have
X-ray vision. So usually, if you end up dissatisfied with a home inspection, or an issue comes up later, I would say, like, 99.9% of the time, it's something that the home inspector could not have known.
That's right.
And buyers don't hear that.
Yeah.
I do, though. The experience of the inspector does matter to me. Like, if you don't know, for example, that there's a high incidence of termites in some neighborhood. That's kind of important.
Like maybe they're not looking for it.
They may not look for that. Now,
Yeah.
they are not going to speak to termites. You have to go to a termite inspection for that. But if they don't even know because they are from Sudbury, that to me is an issue.
Yeah, but rarely happens.
Rare, but can happen.
Yeah.
But ultimately, there's a difference between theory and practice.
Yeah, and this was, I think, a really good example,
Yeah, I mean, if there's a house like this one we talked about earlier that's been on the market for a year, and the home inspection in this case was done like 9 months ago,
Sure.
and it's not in competition, yes, let's do our own.
Absolutely.
But, when they're hotly contested properties like the one you're talking about, there's just not a chance.
Absolutely.
It's a waste of everybody's time.
So the flip side of that would be, a huge mistake for the real estate agent not to provide a pre-list home inspection.
Yeah.
If they are the selling agent, and that's another thing I'm seeing from inexperienced agents. Experienced agents, especially in the city, always provide a pre-list home inspection, even if it is a home that needs if they're expecting multiple offers. Let me just take a step back. I can understand why you wouldn't do it if you know it's going to be on the market for 3 months and someone's going to do their own anyway.
Yeah.
But if you have set this home up to have a multiple offer situation by pricing it low and you have not done a pre-list home inspection, as a seller, that is a grave disservice to you because people will shy away from that and assume your realtor does not know what they're doing. That's what I assume.
Right. If you've chosen that strategy, then you've got to go all in on that strategy.
Yeah.
And part of that is doing everything you can to get firm offers on offer date.
That's right.
And so that a condition on home inspection is not a firm offer. So you've got to provide something for the buyers to go on. And so to pursue that strategy and not do a home inspection does not make any sense.
No, and
I don't see
you're going to lose money.
Yeah, I don't see much of that in the city, but it's in the surrounding areas where I think it's more common. And maybe it's that they don't have the history we have with that kind of strategy.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know.
And here's a tip for you guys as sellers. And if you're not sure, you're questioning whether you should do a pre-list home inspection, even if you're not going to hold back offers, I say for the $400 or $500 it's going to cost to do the home inspection, you should do it because whether it's you or your real estate agent, because when someone does purchase the home and they do a home inspection, let's say if they're going to do their own, all of the problems are going to come up that you may not even know are there.
Yeah, no, I most often recommend to my sellers that they do pre-listing home inspections. 1, to encourage firm offers, but 2, so you exactly that you know what you're dealing with.
Yeah, because what a shocker to find out. Ooh, you have termites.
Yeah,
like what?
Yeah, you don't, and knowing what you're dealing with helps you resolve any issues you might choose to resolve, minor ones probably, but it also gives you negotiating strength when you get an offer because you can say, yeah, we knew about that, and that's why the price is X. Yeah. You can't, ignorance is never a source of power. And so, I mean, there are exceptions there are times when I don't push for a pre-listing home inspection. I'm trying to think of when that is. Maybe, I had
maybe an as-is condition or
an
something.
as-is, or I was thinking of even the other extreme. I had a client who built a brand new house. All according to inspections and permits and all that, and it was just finished. So is there a need then? No.
Probably not.
So that's the situation where I didn't. Now, when you have estate sales or as-is sales, where you kind of know the houses. What I mean by that, I still recommend it.
Yeah, I did that one with the 9 offers,
Yeah.
but
I still because of what we talked about.
Yeah.
Better to know what you have, be able to at least consider doing something if you want to, and being able to stand your ground when you do get that offer. So
now I have one more thing to say about home inspections, which is kind of relevant, but it kind of borders on another topic. But the amount of people who came to that particular listing of ours and did not read read the information that said on it 2 times that there is a pre-list home inspection available is shocking to me.
Right, so yeah.
Here's a mistake that your realtor is probably making, not probably, but could be making. They're not reading the listing because they're in a hurry, they're whatever. You've given them 20 to review or 20 to go see, and they're not reading them all. And I've been guilty of that in the past too, but never again. You have to make sure that your realtor is reading in great detail every listing so that when you show up at the property, you know what is going on. Is there issues that are identified in the listing? Is there already a pre-list home inspection? What is the closing date that they are looking for? What kind of a deposit? All of that stuff could be listed. And when you specifically say on the listing, the closing should be 30 days, I want a minimum of 5% deposit, I have a home inspection available, and an agent comes in and clearly hasn't read any of that. They give you a crappy deposit, a 90-day closing, and a home inspection condition. Your real estate agent should be fired. That's it, period.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they're missing those details, what else are they missing?
It's just laziness.
It's lazy.
Yeah. Now I most often, always actually, I don't request the pre-listing home inspection before going to see a property.
Yeah,
do you do that?
No, but I don't know
Yeah.
why people do.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I get that a lot.
But I might, for that very reason you're talking about, to be informed for the showing.
Yeah, maybe if I was only seeing 1 or 2, but if they're, sometimes your clients give you a list of 96 properties and you're like, I can't read them all. Until you get serious about it, I'm not going to take it seriously.
So knowledgeable for those showings, but not,
not overdone. But I think
once
the
you
point
narrow
being,
in on,
at least read it before you put an offer in, right? So I think that's a big mistake, because as a listing agent, when an agent comes in and they haven't got any of the details right, then I would never sell that house to that person.
Right.
I would shy away.
Another one along those lines that gets me is, Jenelle does a lot more business than me, so I don't know if it's just me, but the number of times, sometimes I've had clients who need to consult with their lawyer if there's more than one seller involved, or they're away on the other side of the world and so need a little bit of extra time because of the time difference. So the listing specifically says that and how long to give us to consider your offer. The number of times I get an offer when I have specifically said, what that's called an irrevocable that we need, and I get an offer with 4 hours.
Yeah, you've asked for 24.
What?
Yeah.
What is the point?
I know.
It's not going to be read in 4 hours. So.
I think some agents think you're just doing that as a marketing strategy in order to try to get it bid up. I don't know.
I don't do that unless it's true.
Yeah, again, that's the problem.
Yeah.
Kind of that we're talking about here is because so many agents, you can't trust what they're seeing.
Right.
Yeah.
So that is what it is. But
I've got another one that I think is a huge mistake that I've just thought of. This wasn't on my list. I've just thought of this. When an agent misrepresents anything about the listing, particularly square footage in a condo, huge mistake. So I see often 700 square feet, 700 to 799 square feet,
right,
is the range. I show up at the unit. Oh, it's not 700 square feet. It's 500 square feet, and the balcony is 200 square feet.
Oh, so they're including the balcony.
And they're including the balcony, or 1+ den, but there is no den. Not even the builder never even made this a den. But maybe there's a tiny little alcove. Not even that. There's a jut out in the wall. And they've called that a den. There are a lot of people misrepresenting listings, and it is wrong. Mm-hmm. And again, as a buying agent, I would never say to my clients here's buy this one. This is a good one, because I wouldn't trust anything that they're telling you.
Yeah,
I would stay far away.
Yeah,
and I've seen also a couple of people listing the wrong district.
Oh, yeah, and you can be generous and think that's just a mistake, but I think
it's not a mistake.
It's not a mistake.
Yeah. So in my neighborhood, if you are in the beach, which is part of E2, that's the Toronto district, it's called E2. If you are on the other side of Victoria Park, you've moved into E6. One side of Victoria Park is E2, one side is E6. Well, sometimes agents who have a property on one of the streets east of Victoria Park will list it in the beach. Maybe it should have been listed as part of the beach. I think it probably should have, but it was not when we rezoned.
Yeah.
And so you can't do that.
Yeah, you see that, you see that down there where you live. I see that where I used to live, where, C10, C11, and C12. This is like real estate speak, but these are different communities within an area. Like the division is so arbitrary that that is a lease side house, but technically it's not.
Right.
But if people are searching for lease side houses, they won't find this one because it's on the wrong side of the street. And so I think sometimes people go oops and classify it as lease side when they know it isn't.
Yeah.
And that's also the situation like around Moss Park, for example.
Exactly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Moss Park and Waterfront District
Yeah.
of C8 are like, they border on each other, and Moss Park has a bad reputation, like bad connotation to it.
Yeah.
Whereas like C8 Waterfront is
Yeah.
But
So-
it is what it is. You have to follow the rules.
Yeah, in that one example, I think that there's a manipulation of the rules. There's not ignorance.
Yeah, it's not a
That's been
mistake.
done on purpose.
Yeah, I agree.
Mhm.
I think that there are all kinds of little things like that.
I remember getting yelled at by a buyer. Why didn't you tell me about this house? Blah 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 blah. And it was in Lawrence Park, but there's a little road and there's a little cutout, and this house wasn't part of Lawrence Park. For some reason, the people that made up the boundaries did that.
Which is a whole
Don't
other
yell at
story.
me about
So,
it.
not my
But
fault.
it was a lesson though to include the other district as well.
Yeah, and that is a good point, because that's something that this all changed like 10 years ago, I think, something like that. So there was something else.
But the general problem this falls into is misrepresentation.
Yeah, right. And I think you see a lot more of that with new realtors and people who don't know what they're doing, and then they're just shifty people. But I think a lot of it are just people who don't understand. Well, I'm going to I'm going to change the district. What's the problem?
Yeah, there's a related problem, a problem related to misrepresentation, which is problems with disclosure.
Yes.
And this one has, also has huge ramifications because, we are obligated to disclose what about the property, the good and
whatever
the bad
we
and
know.
the ugly.
Yeah.
And I think that sometimes some agents hide or don't disclose facts that might not be, or that might be questions or not be acceptable to buyers.
Yeah. And do you have an example of something like that?
I do know. This one actually falls into the line of whether you should disclose or not. But I act as if in doubt, disclose. I think.
Yeah.
And related to that, if there's any possibility that one single buyer might have an issue with this one thing, you have to disclose.
Yeah.
But I do know people who found out that the owner committed suicide in the bedroom. It found out by standing around on the sidewalk meeting his new neighbors and had no idea. So most people wouldn't care.
Yeah.
Maybe you could assume that. But
I showed a unit the other day that I know personally that somebody died in the unit, and it was not mentioned at all in the listing.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that you should
This
disclose.
was a conscious decision of the listing agent not to mention it, or not to think it was, not to be informed enough to at least ask himself, is it possible that somebody might object to this?
Yes.
And so that's one extreme, but there are, not disclosing, that there was a fire.
Water damage,
Water damage, something like that. If you know something like that and you because often I think that agents will say, well, they fixed the problem. Yeah, that's true. And so it's probably not an issue, hence disclose.
Yeah, and there are certain things that, let's say you had
If you had
water damage 10 years ago.
and then you fixed it.
That's different. But
Yeah,
if
I
like
agree.
last week
Yeah.
you had a flood in the basement,
Yeah.
and I went through this recently with a house I was selling, and she got flooding in between the sale and actually it happened to me twice this year, in between the sale and the closing.
Right. That's another issue. Yeah.
It's like, okay, we're gonna get it fixed, but I've got to tell them, and give them the option too. Like, do you want us to fix it? Do you want to fix it? Like, I think, the more transparent you are, and the more you work with in both agents, in both cases where this happened, because I went to them immediately and said, this is what's happened, and how would your clients like to handle it? They were like, amazing about it. Okay, and we understand that happens. Okay, let's talk about our options and figure out what that is. Is it going to be a rebate? Are we going to fix it? Do you want to fix it?
Yeah.
You've got different things that you can do, but I think if you talk about it amongst yourselves, then that works. And I think that leads me to another huge mistake about that your realtor could make on both the buy and sell side, is just generally being an ass to the agent, right? Because like, if you work together, like you are working together as a team.
Yes.
If I'm presenting you with an offer, I want to work together to get this done. I'm not going to go in threatening and I'm going to do this. If you don't take my offer,
that's real estate of the
what
past.
the hell?
Yeah, that whole intimidation.
But I still have clients like that who think that that's the way we get business done.
Yeah.
Well, you just tell them in this market, if they don't take it, it's like, no, we're not.
We don't work that way.
No, I don't work that way.
It doesn't serve anyone's interest.
No, and if I'm on the listing side and I have an agent acting that way to me, I'm like, I'm not working with you. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like, I'll find, there's other ways to go about that. That is a huge mistake. If you are a realtor and that's your approach to dealing with people, good luck to you. But I find that's one thing I will say. I don't know, this has changed, I think, because the market has softened, but more times than not, the people that I'm dealing with on the other side are lovely.
Yeah, because now they're realizing they have to be.
Right. They may not be very competent, but they're very lovely.
Right.
And they want to.
They've got a
do their
nibble.
best.
They don't want it to fall apart because of their behavior.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And they're, even. I've had some strange encounters, really, but that they want to work with you, and I think that's really important. I think if you are a realtor listening to this, remember that there are those of us on the other side who will only work with people who want to work with us.
Right.
And that makes it easy.
Yeah.
There are so many, we could probably go on, but we're already at 30 something
35
minutes,
minutes, 33 minutes on this.
Yeah.
We've probably
exhausted the topic.
I'm sure that we could come back and do round 2 to
You know what, we should do round 2 if there's
I can think of so many.
Oh my gosh, me too. And like, there's all the obvious stuff, like, they should have good photos, they should have whatever, that's all basic, but like, we're going to talk about the things that are not as obvious but really could affect your dealing.
It's the conduct of business.
The conduct of business. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if you want to know more, let us know. Whatever you want to know about, let us know. You can reach out in any way, but social media is great, email is great. All of our contact info is on our website, but also we love it when you follow us on our social channels at the Jenelle Cameron Team. And of course, once again, please take a second and rate us. Leave a review. We really appreciate it. And on that note, have a great week and happy real estate.
Happy real estate, everyone.